Joining me now is former FBI Deputy Assistant Director Danny Coulson. Danny, AG Barr and Prosecutor John Durham now pushing back on the DOJ watchdog. Lou Dobbs has reported it's a whitewash. Basically, the finding is the FBI had adequate reason to probe the Trump campaign. Your reaction?
I think I'm on the side of the AG here and Mr. Durham. I find it very difficult to find a disconnect between those text messages that reflected animus and an intent to take action against Trump, and then the same players went out and did things that were inappropriate. I don't know how you disconnect those two things. If that's not bias, I'm missing something. I've done a few investigations for the FBI, and I think it does reflect bias. And I also have to remember that the United States Attorney has a lot more authority, a lot more information than the IG has. And it'll come out. It's going to be problematic, I think, if he indicts and then we've got an Inspector General that said there was no problem and he finds a problem, indicts people. Yeah. Then you have the Inspector General being a witness for the defense in that case. So it's going to be very interesting.
Well, the report, the DOJ IG report, found that the FBI officials misled the FISA court, that John Durham could accuse them of perjury. The watchdog confirming what you and I have been talking about, repeatedly citing, quote, the low threshold for the FBI to launch a probe into the Trump campaign, how shockingly easy it is to justify espionage of a presidential opponent, and how easy it is to hide how much a political opponent is bankrolling it. Danny, it's worse than we expected.
Well, it is worse than I expected, but the threshold, Liz, is not the problem. The threshold, I believe, is appropriate, and I've done a lot of these. What the problem is candor, is telling the truth. Remember, we have an oath that says tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We didn't get the whole truth here. We cherry-picked what we wanted to give to the court. We didn't give them things that were exculpatory, or they didn't. And I think that's the problem. It's not the threshold, it's honesty.
Well, the threshold, they can launch a probe based on if they think a national security threat will occur. That feels pretty weak. The DOJ, watchdog, to your point, found 17 serious failures and 17 errors and omissions. A lot of misleading going on of the FISA court. What really stood out was that Christopher Steele was paid by Fusion GPS to talk about his own anti-Trump far-fetched dossier, to talk about it with the media. The Clinton campaign got it. The Clinton campaign, DNC, bankrolled it. And you can bet that they were leaking about it. We've watched, and you and I have talked about the media leaks about this DOJ IG report. Certainly the leaks were setting the narrative. They did not capture what we are now finding out today, Danny.
No, that's exactly right. But understand this, and this is really important. You and I have talked about this. The FBI knew it wasn't valid. They knew it was scurrilous. They knew it was specious. And they presented it to the court anyway. And again, it gets back, it's not the legal threshold, it's honesty and telling the whole truth. And that didn't occur here. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Mr. Durham and his investigation.
And you know what's really interesting? Fusion GPS, there was a conduit, a law firm, where the funding from the Democrats to bankroll this file, this dossier, was used to fund it. And they could cite, they could escape congressional inquiry because it's attorney-client privilege. I want to make your point as well taken about the bias with at the FBI about President Trump. Let's show the text again between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. At the same time, we had Kevin Kleinsmith, the former FBI attorney, doctoring and basically evidence to get a FISA renewal to basically do surveillance of Carter Page. Your reaction?
I don't know how it's not bias. I don't know how you disconnect between what they said they were going to do, and their associate, this other lawyer is an associate of theirs, probably worked for Lisa. I don't know how you not take that in consideration when you consider whether or not there was bias. But we'll know the answer to that, because now we have what's essentially a criminal investigation with a grand jury, and I believe cooperative witnesses that will prove that Horowitz's report is not accurate.
Okay, and you know the other thing, too, is still unrevealed, is the Carter Page surveillance warrant issued by the FISA court. It could have had 2 or 3 hops away from it. In other words, authority was used potentially to spy on other members of the Trump campaign.
Well, that's very significant because there's civil action available to Mr. Page and the others. It's called a constitutional tort. They can sue those people individually for violating their Fourth Amendment rights, and I hope they do that. I hope we flush that out, go after them, because what they did was wrong. We all have a Fourth Amendment right not to be monitored without a warrant, and they got a warrant fictitiously, in my view, and we'll see how it plays out.
To your point, quickly, Danny, FISA courts are used to do surveillance of terrorists and foreign agents who are not subject to our Constitution. When you do it, when you point it out a presidential campaign, you've got constitutional issues, right, Danny? Final word.
Yes, but the citizens we monitor have that constitutional protection, and the others don't.
Understood. Danny Coulson, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Come back soon.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, Liz. Thanks.
Same here.